Because Kentucky is a net importer of federal dollars, though, I mean, is it your contention that it's okay for Kentucky to suffer or sacrifice our take of the federal budget if, in fact, these restrictions that you want to put in place are there?
Well, I don't think that anything coming from the federal government is a net plus. It's still all of our money, and right now we're spending $2 trillion more than we take in. So would it be right simply to say, oh, you live in West Virginia and you get $5 for every dollar you send up there? What's a gravy train? Let's just continue it. Well, I think that would be wrong as an American, because I think the deficit is enormous and threatens our country. The other thing about it is that, think about it this way. There are two pies of money. One is the private sector and one is government. And we're going to keep feeding the monster of government, but as a consequence, the money's being taken from somewhere. So the money's being taken from the private sector that could create useful jobs.
Dr. Paul, do you think tax increases are ever justified, say, to pay down the debt?
I think the government has grown too large by having too much federal spending, and I think we should cut federal spending. So I see the size and scope of government as being way beyond its constitutional foundation. The Constitution talked about what government should spend, what were the enumerated powers. We have a government that's grown way too large. So at this point in our history, at this point in our fiscal nightmare, it has to be about cutting spending.
But say we do cut spending and we still need money to pay down the debt. Are tax increases ever justified?
We pay nearly 50% of our income in taxes, and I don't think it's a good idea to have higher taxes. For lowering tax burden, but only if you lower the spending burden.
Mr. Paul, there's been a lot of polls coming out the last couple of weeks with you ahead or the race close. Do you feel like you're ahead, and what's your strategy the rest of the way?
Good question. I like that. Yes, we are ahead. I like that, but we run like we're behind. If anything, I think we're out hustling the opposition. I work full-time job. I did 7 surgeries on Tuesday. I saw 15 patients on Tuesday, did a national interview, and then traveled across the state and gave a speech in Frankfurt. So I'm traveling every day, working full-time, because I'm like a lot of Americans. I have mortgages to pay and bills to pay, so I continue to work, but I also continue to travel and give a lot of speeches, and we run as if it's a tie race, but most of the polls show us ahead.
Dr. Paul, you referenced once that it was somewhat of a difficult message you were giving to the Farm Bureau here today. Do you consider it to be a hostile environment?
Not at all. No, I think a very friendly environment. In fact, if they aren't on my side, they've gone to great lengths to be the most cordial people that I've met in a long time. But what I would say is, and this is what's interesting, is some people will try to simplify this and say it's only about farm subsidies. Well, farmers are complicated people like you and I, and they have a lot of different beliefs. For example, there are a lot of farmers who are like me that are pro-life, and I don't think they'll accept the other side being pro-abortion. There are a lot of them who are religious and traditional Christian conservatives, and I don't think they'll accept some of what the other side's going to talk about or what the other side believes in. So I think that affects also how they vote and how they make their decision-making process. I think they're good American people like you and I are good American people in the sense that they are worried about the debt. I think if you talk to them and ask them, should 3 companies get $1 billion in farm subsidies, I think probably to a person in that boardroom they'll say, that sounds like an abuse. So I think there is much commonality, and I do believe farming is important, and I will be a great defender and always have been a great defender of business. And farming is a business. It has unique aspects, but capitalism, which I'm a great believer and defender of, supports business of all colors, stripes, and forms. And so I will be a big defender of the farming community.
You called for getting the EPA off the farm. What exactly do you mean by that? Has the EPA overstepped its reach?
Going to be going against Jack Conway, who's running as more of a moderate to conservative Democrat. Is that going to be the biggest hurdle for the campaign?
I don't think it's a hurdle for me. I think it's a hurdle for him. We'll see how fast he can run away from President Obama. I mean, he's going to have to run away from all of his policies. President Obama is going to let the Bush tax cuts expire. Now, while Jack says, well, I'm really not for that, he's already come out in favor of the estate tax, and that is one of the tax cuts. Let's pin him down on every one of them. Now, is he going to vote with the Republicans? And then let's ask him the question, if you're going to vote with the Republicans, why don't you become a Republican? He's running with President Obama, and he will vote for Harry Reid. There's no question. It's not a question of who will be the leader. Harry Reid is the leader and will be the leader of the Democrats if they stay in power, and Jack Conway will be a vote for that. And is he going to vote for President Obama's policies? He's for the health care. See, I have it easy, I think, because the people of Kentucky, only about 35% of them are for President Obama's health care plan. So I have it easy. They're on my side on that issue. Poll farmers and ask them, how many of you guys want an estate tax to come back? But you're going to get close to zero. He's going to have to explain how he's going to try to have some exemptions for farms and this and that. But there's a danger. There's always a danger to bringing a tax back that you've gotten rid of, that it'll be amended, and all of a sudden the exemptions may say, oh, well, when we get the rich farmer with the estate tax, and all of a sudden you're like, I didn't know I was rich, and now I'm not exempt and my farm's going to be taxed. So I think there is great danger to that. I think the problem will be more for him running away from President Obama's policies than it will be for me, because I think people in Kentucky are conservative, Democrat.
As we move forward.